The unexpected encounter, the station's upper deck gleamed under artificial lights. A pristine bubble of wealth hovering above the gritty industrial docks below. Marcus Fletcher sat across from his 8-year-old daughter Tessa, watching her arrange her meal into perfect sections. 20 years as a military field medic had trained him to notice details. The way wealthy patrons averted their eyes from the service corridors, how station security lingered near certain entrances, and especially how the blue-skinned alien woman and her child stood frozen at the restaurant's threshold. "Dad, look," Tessa whispered, nudging his arm. "They look hungry." The alien child couldn't have been older than Tessa. Her skin was a luminescent azure with faint patterns that seemed to pulse beneath the surface. Her mother stood tall but thin, wearing clothes that had once been fine but now showed signs of hard travel. The restaurant host approached them with a practiced smile that didn't reach his eyes. "All guests must make a minimum purchase to remain," the host said, his voice carrying just enough volume for nearby tables to hear. Marcus recognized the tactics. He'd seen similar treatment in refugee camps across 3 systems during the war. His hand tightened around his cup. "Tessa, stay here," he said, rising from his seat. The host turned as Marcus approached. "Sir, station policy clearly states they're with us," Marcus said, his voice quiet but carrying the authority of someone who'd commanded medical units under fire. "Table for 4, please." The host hesitated, eyes darting between Marcus and the aliens. "Of course, sir." The alien woman watched him with amber eyes that held equal parts suspicion and pride. Up close, Marcus could see the exhaustion etched into her face, the small tremors in her hands suggesting inadequate nutrition. "Oh, Marcus Fletcher." "This is my daughter Tessa." "I am Nihilith," the woman replied, her voice musical yet formal. "This is Solara." Tessa had already moved beside the alien child, offering half her meal. "I always make too much," she lied cheerfully. Solara looked to her mother, who gave a small nod. The child accepted the food with surprising grace, her fingers slightly webbed between the joints. "You don't need to intervene," Nyla said quietly. "We have managed." "I know," Marcus replied, "but sometimes managing isn't enough." A whispered comment from a nearby table, something about station standards, made Tessa's shoulders tense. Marcus had seen this before. The casual cruelty, the way people could dismiss others as less than themselves. "The lower docks have better food anyway," he said, standing. "Join us. My apartment's not far." Nihilith straightened, pride warring with practicality. "We cannot accept charity." "It's not charity," Marcus countered. "It's dinner. You decide what happens after." Solara looked up at her mother with hopeful eyes. After a moment of silent calculation, Nihilith nodded. Outside, rain pattered against the station's transparent dome. Marcus guided them toward the transport tubes that connected the upper decks to the working-class quarters below. As they descended, the polished surfaces gave way to utilitarian metal, and the sanitized air became tinged with machine oil and sea salt from the hydroponic bays. "You were military," Nihilith observed, nodding toward the faint scars on his forearms. "Medical corps," Marcus confirmed. 15 years ago? Why would you help us?" she asked. "Your kind rarely does." Tessa answered before Marcus could. "Because it's right," she said simply. "And Dad always does what's right." Marcus met Nihilith's gaze and saw something shift behind her eyes. Not trust, not yet, but perhaps the possibility of it. Sanctuary among strangers, Marcus's apartment occupied the middle floor of a converted shipping container stack. Now a common housing solution in the station's lower quadrants, the space was modest but clean, with automated hydroponics in the kitchen, providing fresh herbs and the smell of actual soil, a luxury in space. "You can wash up there," Marcus said, pointing to the small bathroom. "Water's recycled, but clean." Nihilith hesitated at the threshold, one hand protectively on Solara's shoulder. "We left Proxima Colony 3 weeks ago," she said suddenly. "When the purification squads came." Marcus nodded, keeping his expression neutral. The news had mentioned civil unrest on Proxima, nothing about purification squads targeting non-humans. Some things never made the official channels. "You're undocumented," he stated, rather than asked. "Yes." Nihilith's posture stiffened. "We had permits, but they were confiscated during processing. Translation: taken by corrupt officials or destroyed to eliminate evidence. Marcus had seen it before. Tessa had already led Solara to her room, showing off her small collection of geological samples from different worlds. The children's voices drifted through the apartment. Tessa's excited chatter and Solara's softer responses growing more animated by the minute. "They're hitting it off," Marcus observed, setting water to boil for tea. "Kids adapt faster than we do." Solara has not spoken so much in weeks, Nyleth admitted, her formal facade cracking slightly. "Your daughter is kind." "She gets that from her mother," Marcus said, the familiar ache in his chest whenever he mentioned Elise. "Lost her 5 years ago. Station accident." Nyleth's eyes widened slightly. "You raise her alone?" "We manage," he echoed her earlier words with a slight smile, as he prepared a simple meal of synthesized protein enhanced with fresh herbs. Marcus observed Nyleth examining the apartment. Her movements were precise, conserving energy. Military, he guessed, or something similar. "You were not always a refugee," he said quietly. "I was a xenobiologist," she replied after a pause. "And a professor?" "Before the regime change." The regime that human corporations had quietly backed for mineral rights, Marcus knew. The regime that had promised stability and delivered systematic persecution of non-human minorities. When they sat to eat, Solara's eyes widened at the modest spread. "It smells like home," she whispered, touching a sprig of basil. "Eat slowly," Nyleth cautioned her. "Your stomach needs time." Later, as the station's artificial night cycle dimmed the lights, Marcus prepared the pull-out couch. "You can stay here tonight," he said. "Tomorrow we can figure out next steps." "Why risk yourself?" Nyleth asked, her voice low to avoid waking the children who had fallen asleep in Tessa's room. "Harboring undocumented refugees carries severe penalties." Marcus considered the question. "During the war, I saw too many people looking the other way. I swore I wouldn't become one of them." Nyleth stepped closer, the dim light catching the subtle patterns beneath her skin. "Your daughter said you always do what's right. Is that true, Marcus Fletcher?" "I try," he answered honestly. "I don't always succeed." For the first time, Nyleth smiled, a small gesture that transformed her face. "Perhaps that is enough." Growing bonds' days stretched into weeks. Marcus adjusted work schedules to avoid raising suspicions. While Nyleth kept herself and Solara out of sight during routine station inspections, what had begun as temporary sanctuary evolved into something resembling normal life. Tessa and Solara became inseparable. Together they built elaborate models of solar systems. Solara's natural talent for spatial relationships, complementing Tessa's meticulous attention to detail. Marcus often found them huddled over educational tablets. Tessa teaching Solara human customs, while Solara explained the constellations visible from her homeworld. "She's gifted," Marcus remarked one evening as the children slept. "Solara could qualify for the academic track if... He left the sentence unfinished. If they had documentation, if they weren't hiding. Nyleth sat beside him on the small balcony that faced the station's agricultural ring. "On our world, her abilities would have granted her entry to the scientific academies," she said quietly. "Now I cannot even provide her basic education." Without thinking, Marcus reached across the space between them, his fingers brushing against hers. Nyleth stiffened momentarily, then relaxed, allowing the contact. "What would happen," he asked, "if you applied for official asylum?" Nyleth's laugh held no humor. "Best case? Detention while they process our claim, which would be denied. Worst case? Immediate deportation to Proxima, where Solara would be separated for re-education, and I would face charges of treason." Their hands remained connected, neither acknowledging it explicitly. The warmth of her skin against his felt both alien and familiar. "There are people I know," Marcus said carefully. "Former military who disagree with current policies. They help relocate refugees to outer colonies where documentation is... flexible." Smugglers. Nyleth translated. Humanitarians with questionable methods. Marcus corrected with a small smile. Their conversation was interrupted by a ping from Marcus's communication device. A message from Warden Hector, his supervisor. Unscheduled inspection tomorrow. All quarters. Security concerns. Marcus's pulse quickened. We need to move you temporarily. You've done enough, Nyleth said, pulling her hand away. We can find another. No, Marcus interrupted, surprised by his own vehemence. I know a place. It's not ideal, but it's safe for a day or two. Later, as he made preparations, Marcus found himself lingering in the doorway to Tessa's room. The girls slept back to back, Tessa's dark curls contrasting with Solara's iridescent scalp crests. Something in his chest tightened at the citat. How natural it seemed. How right. That night, after explaining the situation, Marcus helped Nyleth gather their few belongings. Their fingers brushed again as they passed items between them, and this time the contact lingered. In the dimmed light of the kitchen, their eyes met. Marcus, she whispered, his name sounding different in her voice. He moved closer, uncertainty and desire warring within him. Nyleth's hand rose to touch his face, her fingers tracing the line of his jaw with wonder. This is unwise, she murmured, even as she leaned toward him. Probably, he agreed. Just before their lips met, the kiss was gentle at first, exploratory, then deepened with unexpected hunger. Her skin beneath his hands felt silk smooth, the patterns beneath glowing faintly in response to his touch. When they finally separated, both breathless, Nyleth pressed her forehead against his, a gesture of intimacy from her culture. If they find us, she whispered, this will only make things worse for you. Marcus cradled her face in his hands. Some things are worth the risk. The ultimatum, the maintenance shaft behind Hydroponics Section 6, had been Marcus's sanctuary during his early days on the station. Now it served as a temporary hiding place for Nyleth and Solara while station security conducted their inspection. Tessa had gone to school as usual, instructed to say nothing if questioned. Daddy, is this because of the men at the market? Tessa had asked that morning, her perception sharper than Marcus had realized. She'd noticed the plainclothes, security officers watching them during their weekly shopping trip. The inspection lasted longer than usual. Marcus maintained his routine, answering questions about cargo manifests and crew rotations, while anxiety churned beneath his calm exterior. When he finally returned to his quarters, Warden Hector was waiting. Fletcher, the warden said, his heavy frame blocking the doorway. Good work on the latest safety reports. Thank you, sir, Marcus replied, recognizing the preamble for what it was. Hector stepped inside uninvited. You know why I'm here? Marcus remained silent, weighing his options. Someone reported unusual water usage patterns from your unit, Hector continued, and power fluctuations. Consistent with additional occupants, station infrastructure is aging, Marcus countered. I've filed maintenance requests. Hector's laugh was without mirth. Cut the shit, Fletcher. We both served. I respect you too much for games. He lowered his voice. To Proximan refugees, female adult, female child, blueskins. Marcus felt ice form in his stomach. What do you want? It's not what I want, Hector sighed, looking genuinely regretful. Corporate security has flagged them. Apparently, the adult was involved in political activities back home. They've given me 24 hours to produce them before they bring in external enforcement, and if you don't find them, then I lose my position. You face charges of harboring, and they bring in specialists who will tear this station apart until they find them. Hector leaned closer. These specialists aren't known for their gentle methods, Fletcher, especially with non-humans. Marcus maintained his neutral expression through years of practice, though his mind raced. I've bought you time, Hector continued, surprising him. The inspection reports show nothing unusual. But they're watching. You have until tomorrow's shift change. After Hector left, Marcus collected Tessa from school, her small hand gripping his tightly as they walked. She didn't ask questions until they were home. Are Nyleth and Solara coming back? She asked, her voice small. Yes, Marcus promised. But we need to help them find somewhere safer. That night, after retrieving them from the maintenance shaft, Marcus explained the situation. Tessa clung to Solara, both children sensing the tension in the adults' voices. "I've arranged transport," Marcus said. "There's a cargo ship leaving for the outer colonies tomorrow. The captain owes me favors, and if they're caught—" Nyleth asked, her eyes on Solara. Marcus couldn't lie to her. "It's risky. But staying is certain capture." Later. After the children had finally fallen asleep, Nyleth found Marcus on the balcony, staring at the stars. "Come with us," she said softly. The words hung between them, weighty with implication. Marcus turned to her, conflicting emotions evident in his expression. "Leave everything behind?" "You've already risked everything," she responded, moving closer until their bodies touched. For us, their kiss was different this time. Desperate, hungry, filled with the knowledge of impending separation. His hands traced the glowing patterns on her skin, memorizing their texture and warmth. Her fingers worked at his clothing with unexpected urgency. "Are you certain?" he whispered against her neck. Her answer came not in words, but in the press of her body against his, guiding him toward his bedroom. In the dim light, their differences seemed to fade, giving way to a more fundamental connection that transcended species. Later, as they lay entwined, Marcus made his decision. A new beginning dawn came too quickly. Marcus moved through the station with practiced efficiency, finalizing arrangements while maintaining the appearance of routine. Tessa remained unusually quiet, helping Solara pack the few possessions they'd accumulated during their stay. "Dad says we're going on an adventure," Tessa told her friend, trying to sound excited rather than frightened. Solara's head crests flattened against her skull, a sign of anxiety. "Will they separate us?" "No," Tessa promised fiercely. "Dad won't let that happen." In the kitchen, Marcus transferred his savings to an untraceable credit chip, everything he'd put aside since Elise's death. Enough for a fresh start if they were careful. "The cargo shuttle leaves in 3 hours," he told Nyleth, who was memorizing the route to the docking bay. "Warden Hector will be changing shifts then. There's a 15-minute window with minimal security." "You've thought of everything," Nyleth observed. "Not everything," Marcus admitted. "But enough, I hope." The station alarm sounded at midday, the evacuation signal, but the piercing wail that indicated security lockdown. Marcus's communicator buzzed with an override message from Hector. Corporate security moved timeline. "Coming now. Run." "We need to go," Marcus said, adrenaline sharpening his senses. "Now, different route." They moved quickly, Marcus carrying a small bag of essentials, Tessa holding Solara's hand as they navigated service corridors and maintenance tunnels. The sounds of booted feet echoed behind them, growing closer. At a junction, Marcus made a split-second decision. "This way," he urged, leading them toward the lower docking bays rather than the cargo area. "It's not the plan," Nyleth hissed. "Plans changed," he replied grimly. "Trust me." They emerged into the shuttle bay used for station maintenance vehicles. A small transport sat ready, its engines humming.
"Ow."
A voice called. Warden Hector stood by the shuttle, his massive frame blocking the entry ramp. "You're making a mistake." Marcus pushed Tessa and Solara behind him, positioning himself between them and the warden. Nyleth moved to his side, her body tense with readiness. "I'm trying to help you, you stubborn bastard," Hector continued, stepping aside to reveal the open shuttle door. "This vessel is scheduled for routine exterior maintenance. No manifest check, no passenger log." Marcus stared, uncomprehending. 20 years in service together," Hector said quietly. "Did you think I wouldn't recognize what you're doing? What you're becoming?" He gestured toward Nyleth and the children. "Some things matter more than regulations." And behind them, the sounds of approaching security grew louder. "Why?" Marcus asked, still suspicious. Hector's weathered face softened momentarily. "My wife was from the colonies. Mixed heritage. I know what happens to people who don't fit the approved categories." He checked his timepiece. 2 minutes before, I'm obligated to report this shuttle's unauthorized departure." Understanding dawned. Marcus nodded once, gratitude in his eyes. "Elise would be proud," Hector added quietly. "Now go." They boarded quickly, Marcus taking the pilot's seat while Nilith secured the children. The shuttle's engines roared to life as the bay doors opened to reveal the vastness of space beyond the station as they cleared the station's gravitational field. Tessa pressed her face to the viewport, watching her childhood home recede into the distance. "Are we refugees now too?" she asked. Marcus exchanged a glance with Nilith, who had moved to sit beside him in the co-pilot's seat. Her hand found his on the control panel. "No," he answered, turning the shuttle toward the distant stars that would guide them to the outer colonies. "We are a family, finding our way home." In the rear of the shuttle, Solara's soft voice rose in a traditional Proximant song of journeying. Tessa joined in, stumbling over the alien words but matching the melody perfectly. Marcus listened, feeling something inside him settle into place. He had left behind a career, a home, a life built on routine and safety. Yet as Nilith's fingers interlaced with his, he realized he had gained something far more valuable: a second chance. A family forged across the boundaries of worlds. As the shuttle accelerated toward their uncertain future, Marcus felt no regret. Some choices defined not just a person, but humanity itself. And in choosing compassion over fear, love over security, he had found his answer.